Good morning, sir. So now we had some mallard domesticated ducks when I was a child. There was three of these, or was it four? I forget. Maybe it was four and one died. But anyway, I think we had three domesticated mallard ducks. My mom just loved those ducks, and I forget did she hatch them out herself or buy them. But anyhow, because she would hatch chicks with a cluck, and then she'd put whatever else under the chicken that she wanted hatched. And so we had like lots of hens sitting around, sitting on eggs. And of course, my mom would process chickens for chicken meat and all. Oh, I hated that. And our dog Ginger, she hated it too. And one day she was so angry we had to tie her up, or else she would. I mean, she threatened to bite us for working with these dead chickens. And so we had to tie her up. She was already mad because she didn't get to go with my dad and my brothers to the neighboring farm. So she was already mad. And then she was even madder because of the chickens. And she was a protective kind of animal, the dog was. She liked to protect things. And she would go to the woods and she would look for baby rabbits out in the woods and out in the fields of the wild nature and bring them home because she thought because we had rabbits, she wanted to add these little baby rabbits to the, I guess you'd call it a flock of rabbits because that would be like a flock of chickens. But no, this our set of rabbits or whatever you call our groupings of rabbits. She wanted to have us take care of these little baby rabbits, and we had to train her that even though she protects the animals here, she's not to go out there and mess with the animals in the field. The rabbits that belong in the field belong in the field, and the rabbits that belong here. We had to explain that to her over and over and over until she got that. But our little ducks, they grew up, and we made ourselves a little small pond in the back by the chicken house. So we had another pond down in the rennet field, and that pond was a lot bigger. In fact, it would freeze over, and one time my brother, he decided he wanted to drive out on the ice with the tractor. Well, he didn't get very far at all because those wheels sank down, and now the tractor was stuck in the mud. And so somehow we had to get out. So I guess it was kind of an embarrassment to him to go tell my dad that we needed to get the other tractor down there to pull it out. Or maybe he didn't even tell my dad about it. I don't know. But anyhow, we got the other tractor down there to pull that one out. And so we have had a lot of fun down there at that pond. We never had much as far as fish is concerned, but we had minnows and dragonflies that we played with and stuff. And on a hot day, those things were really kind of like rampant down there. And then we had access to a pond, a bigger pond, the other way, the other direction across the highway. The neighbors had a bigger pond. I mean, it was a huge pond, and we would go over there and play, and we would fish and reel in the fish. Now, I was never much of a fisherman, and I hated fishing, and still do to this day, but I will go fishing sometimes for the sport of it with someone if someone wants to go fishing as a social thing. I remember one time I went to a big lake with my brother. He was 12 years older than I am. He's not living anymore. I don't know if this was Willet Lake or if it was Sarando Lake or where this lake was. It was some big lake somewhere when I was small, and I thought this lake was huge. And I remember catching a little itty bitty fish. I was really proud of myself. I was probably 3 or 4 years old. And So we went and did that, and I was catching these little fish while my brother was swimming. That's something I have never learned to do is swim. I just cannot fathom it, cannot imagine it, cannot identify with it, cannot do anything with it. All I know about water is that you go down and you drown, and I don't want to do that. So I just basically stay out of the deep water. I just like might play along the edge, and I might go under for a little bit and then just come back out. And one time I grabbed a hold of some cables and went down and let go of the cables, and I got scared, and so somehow I managed to get up again. But no, I cannot swim at all. I don't know the first thing about swimming. Well, yeah, the first thing about swimming is going like that. But anyhow, what I'm just trying to say is I don't have the capability of swimming. So that's that. But anyway, so the big pond across the way at the neighbors, it is now all gone. It's built up in housing, and you would never know that there was a pond there. But the dogs used to like to go in that pond and swim, and Ginger and Snap that I talked about earlier in another video. They went up there and they would swim out there and back again. They had the grandest time swimming. But of course, you had to stay away from them when they got out because they would shake themselves off and you get all sprayed with it. But so anyhow, so then we had a little duck pond in the back, and so those ducks had the grandest time playing in that water. And but one day, some dog from somewhere beyond here came, and they took that duck and killed it. And then they went to the next one and killed it. And about that time, my mom ran out there. About the time he got the third one and killed it, she was just a bit too late. So now there were her ducks going, and she never got any more ducks after that. And so that's the story of the ducks. Those ducks, they were dark green with some lighter green feathered into the feather. If you know what I mean by feathering in, kind of like you feather in the paint. Well, so they were kind of feathered into the feather, dark green, light green, and their heads were dark green on top. Those were really some neat looking ducks. And so those are about the only ducks that we ever had. Now, later on, when I was working on a dairy farm in Madison, Virginia, um, I worked there for 3.5 years, and that was really a grand time of my life. I really enjoyed that farm and wouldn't have minded still being there. But you cannot ever make a go of it on a farm unless you own the farm, and I did not own the farm. Because if you're just a hired hand working on the farm, you're going to be just kind of like, well, life is that way anyway. You are born naked and you're going to die naked. Well, I mean, they'll put you in a casket with clothes on, but that doesn't mean a thing. You're dead, and you don't care about those clothes anymore. Well, when you're born, you don't care about clothes. You have no care at all. When you are born, it's kind of like, man, what have I gotten myself into? Well, when I was born, they say I was not breathing. I don't know if I was practically dead or what, but they had to work with me a while to get me alive. And I don't know to what degree that was, and my mom had told me about it. She said the doctor refused to tell her about it. I said, well, you could have gone and gotten the records, and I guess she never thought about doing that. But anyway, so doctors didn't say much back then, and those are just some things we don't know, you know. And so what was I saying about farming? Oh yeah, I was farming on this other farm, and there we had peacocks, we had quail, we had pigeons, and we had chickens and geese and turkeys. You know, the turkeys are really stupid animals, birds, and they just don't have any sense at all. But peacocks are beautiful. We had all different kinds of chickens that you can imagine. I mean, on that farm, we had all the eggs and chicken meat that we could eat, and other eggs, quail eggs. They were really good. I enjoyed quail eggs, and there was a little hatchery up in the upper part of the dairy barn where we hatched out the quail by the droves. We had lots of quail on that farm. I tell you what, that was a lot of fun too. And of course, we had the dairy cows, we had the calves, and I was really uh, busy with these calves a lot of the time, just working with these calves. And milking cows took 3 hours generally. And milking cows was something that was really enjoyable, but it could get old at times. And you would go in there, you'd get, first of all, you would have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, drag yourself out of the bed, drag yourself out um, into the kitchen from upstairs, come down the stairs, and drag yourself into the refrigerator and try to find something to eat to so you won't starve when you come back in at 9 o'clock for breakfast. And so you would sit there trying to stay awake to eat a little bit, not too much because you didn't have much time. And of course, if you wanted to make a habit of it, of being religious or something, then you would read the Bible with closed eyes practically, and you really didn't get much. But it's better to have a verse in your heart that you know about and think about that all day than it is to try to read something by force and not be able to get it. That's something that I learned later. But anyway, um, so you drag yourself out of the house and sit on the front porch now. And so then um, you sit there trying to put your boots on, all right, your rubber barn boots over your shoes, all right. So that works pretty good. And you're sitting there and you're kind of enjoying the darkness and the stillness of the night. And suddenly, out in the distance, you see a falling star. Now, those were some times that I really enjoyed. Just after 4 in the morning, you would be looking at falling stars. That's the best time to be looking at falling stars. And that it was a beautiful sight. I've seen many of that in 3.5 years. And so anyway, then according to how much moonlight you had, you do pretty good walking out to the barn. I had about a quarter of a mile to the barn, and some nights it was like pitch dark. I could not even see my hand in front of my face. That's how dark it was. And but there was gravel in the driveway all the way to the barn, and that's how I managed to get to the barn when it was dark because I would hear the gravel. You say, why did you not have a flashlight? I was not accustomed to having a flashlight. My dad was always tight with batteries for flashlights when I was growing up, and every moment better count with that flashlight. So when I grew up, I did not want anything to do with flashlights. So I just didn't have one. Now, when we got to the barn, then I would have a flashlight at the barn to go out in the field to get the cows. But I refused to own a flashlight because I did not want to deal with that thing about every moment counts with the battery. So I just didn't have any flashlight. Not until the battery-free flashlights came out. It was, in other words, they were disposable battery flashlights. They had their own battery. You didn't change the battery, and that is the type of battery I like because I did not have to worry about, okay, now every moment counts with this battery. But now, of course, I have the little high-powered white shining flashlight that's about this long. But I don't use flashlights much even now. It's just something that I don't do much because I trained myself not to use flashlight because I didn't want to get yelled at when I was a child. And so, so that is the story of the flashlight. Uh, but it's not like I worry about it now when I have a flashlight because flashlights are just they're just something to have. That's it doesn't bother me now when I use a flashlight. Um, I use it when I need it. If I don't need it, don't worry about it. I'm just fine without it. Um, but so don't ever yell at your kids for using a flashlight a minute too long. Just don't do it because they will have a problem with that possibly when they grow up and then they will not want to use flashlights. It's not like I'm angry or anything. It's just like I've trained myself not to use flashlights. And so therefore I don't use flashlights much. But so anyhow, yeah, I really enjoyed that farm, and I will tell you more about milking cows a little later because this I see I have done gone over 17 minutes on this here video today. Thank you very much.